Hello, poison friends. We are back to talk about some Johnson&Johnson stuff. We're on the same computer again because, well,
Technology.
technology. Y'all know how it is with me. But technically, it's my daughter's computer. She's gotten like super obsessed with photo booth and making these videos on photo booth, which involves stuffed animals making screechy noises a lot. And
Yeah.
her entire memory
Is packed.
yeah, so we're trying to work that out, and because she can't even get the Google to come up. She can't even get the browser to come up. So she's learning how to maybe not do that in the future. So yeah, I'm letting her use one of my flash drives if she doesn't want to get rid of anything, and I get that, but she has too much on there. So, but it's cool. We're gonna do it on this computer, and it's gonna be great. Let's see. I want to go over, give our patrons the shout outs they deserve and remind you guys about the Patreon. You guys can go to the Patreon. I'm pretty sure we talk about it like every week. The tiers are on there. I'll let you guys handle that. There's like a $1 tier. There's two $3 tiers. Same thing. Okay. They're the same thing. It's just we had a bit of issue with technology there too. And hopefully Patreon will
eventually figure
that part out. But it's the same thing. And of course, you can join as a free member too. But we have some really cool things going on there, including the Discord. There's a link for the Discord in there for paid patrons. I do bonus episodes once a week. There's some other bonus stuff on there too, like Poison in the News and Neuromix chats as well with me and Adam. So, but yeah, I'm going to shout out our patrons so we can go ahead and get started. We've got Nicole Crane, Brett Moser, Lynn Rocket, Ogre the Viking, Maggie's Yarm, Maya Showstock, Sasha Rubel, Nicole Rivers, Liz Bianchini, Dixie Painter, James Mills, Bobby Sue, Amanda B., Mara Santiago, Grace Lahan, Genevieve, Neve Shatreat, Jay Went, Ingan Hafner, Kiri Yorsek, Caitlin N., Jessica Gasparini, Soy Kasumi, Thomas Huff, Glow and Go, Julia Franzoni, Lady Digitalis, Leah Marie Matson, Ebby, Supergirl Sway, Creative Otter, Dizzy Dancer, Mr. Slade, The Warped Witch, Dalit Party, Jennifer Ramirez Johnson, Desiree Davis, Melissa Immel, Lynn Simpson, Aaron Carey, Christine Arnold, Rynell Alara, Oma D, Bonnie, Christian Skretergaard, Prim Risen, Stuart Slattery, Minnesota SPT, Pungrammed 101, Caitlin Martin, Wendy Goldstone, 2 Fidgety, same, Jennifer Wilson Richter, Old Man Clyde, Anna Marie, Vix, Blau Frosch, Morgan Brittingham, Christine Muljadi, Pterosaurus Hex, Estar, Knit Ninja, Sarah G, Jefferson Vargas, Donna Lanchinese, Lauren Smith, Banana, Serpentine Fire, Melanie the SLP, Stuart Lee, Chris Milanak, Libby, Hetty, Hansapalooza, Lisa Emin, aka Schmud, Kelsey H, Paper Sky, Hannah Cook, Campus R, Britt Clark, Paris Longer, Andrea Shameless Agitator, Ruby Salazar, Cassandra Smiles, Daniel Soar, Jasmine, Dr. Doom, Maureen Hart, Justin Higgins, Nigel Hawkins, Judy Lowe, Seamus Pict, Lisa D.W., Lashia Paris, Jesse Pollard, Sarah, Jahira, Everyday Delirium, April, Alicia, Melafantastico, Panda Cannoli, Amber Golder, Donna Foley, Teethweir 5, Natsumaya Terin, Tater the Gator, Hannah Rose, Sherlock and Watson, Randall Katz, Nozamiko, Michelle with the 1L, Catherine Gottabed Fraser, Brittany, Lisa Fagan, Haplo84, Anna Kittalong, Will, aka Dubs, Megan Geiger, Elian Golding, might be Elian Golding, sorry.
Isn't that also like a singer's name? Like Ellie Golding or something?
I think so.
I'm look it up real quick.
That sounds familiar. Yeah. That does sound familiar.
Sorry.
Lucy Galloway, Toby Marie, Shelby Knowles, Catherine Smith, Aussie Sapper 92, Sarah Weeks, Lisa Johnston, Daniel Galagos, Evan McCann, and we have a new one as well, Mike McLaughlin. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and just being here to listen. Yeah, there is. Ellie Golding. This is Elian Golding. Elian Golding, sorry. Yeah, but
yes.
Cool.
Welcome.
Really cool. But yeah, so that's our Patreon. I did pretty good that time. I should read from my phone more often because I just can't see, I think, my notes app on my computer. I think. Yeah.
Where are your glasses?
I know. I gotta find them again.
Last time I saw you had them, it was in here.
Yeah, I'll find them. I'll probably,
Probably in your room.
I'm like, I always tell people I wear glasses, but they never see me wear glasses because I'm always losing them. Figures. But yeah, with J&J, I know we did something different last week because of or last episode because of the holiday and everything.
July 4th, yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about another medicine that J&J put out and just some shady stuff that they did alongside that as well, like we did with the Tylenol and there was another one we did
Baby
too.
powder?
Baby powder. Yeah, we did baby powder. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of this information from that book. I think it's called No More Tears. It's this journalist who basically, I always forget his name, who basically wrote up a good bit of J&J's history, including a lot of shady stuff that they've been involved with in the past and distant past and recent past. So they've been around for a long time. That way I can give you guys a good resource. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Don't know what that is. What is that? Is that Ozzy?
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne.
That's what it says.
Wow, that must be an older one. He looks young there.
It's a very interesting picture.
Ozzy!
You just type in "no more tears" in Google.
Rest in peace, Ozzy.
It's like a screen cap for
He's like
a video, and it's pretty spot on.
I can't do the Ozzy face.
Gotta like lower your jaw a little.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. I haven't bitten the heads off any bats, so I wonder if he got a rabies shot for that.
Mm.
He didn't mean to. He thought it was a fake bat, I think.
What?
He also bit the head off a dove too, though. I think he was weird.
Just needs to stop biting the heads off of stuff.
Well, he's dead now.
The only time that makes sense is if it's like chocolate or like the little gummies and stuff. So like a gummy worm.
Yeah, I think he was trying to make a point, but he also might not have been sober. I don't know.
Okay.
I need to read a book about his life, honestly.
Maybe that could be an idea for another episode.
Yeah. Rock stars who did crazy things when they were under the influence. Because drugs are poisons.
Yeah. They hurt your system.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not initially, but down the road.
No, we could talk about, we're getting off track. Sorry. I have plenty that I could mention there, honestly. Nikki Sixx. Could talk about him. Anyway.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Nikki Sixx is?
No. Gotta remember I'm 10 years young.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, you probably know the band. Motley Crue?
Okay, yeah.
You know Motley Crue.
I know I don't know the individual members.
If you want to hear something sad, listen to what they sound like more recently.
Oh, goodness.
It's terrible. I hate that, but it's terrible. They did a lot of drugs, so.
It's catching up.
Yeah, and it'll do that. So.
Sorry, didn't mean.
No, you're good.
Throwing off there. It was just like your face, though, maybe you.
I was like, what is that? That's not what I'm looking for. Anyway, Gardner Harris wrote the book No More Tears. And he was is a investigative reporter, I believe. Yeah. So he's written some other stuff too. Anyway, but that's where I'm getting a good bit of information as well as just some stuff on J&J's website and other sites like news sites for when things happen, things like that. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. But it's a pretty good book too. So we're going to talk about Procrit, which is one of J&J's versions of erythropoietin, which is just a fun word to say. Erythropoietin.
How many times can you say that fast without messing?
Erythropoietin. Yeah. It makes me think of onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
Because there's an E in there, like when you write it out, but the I and the E are flipped in those two words. So when I tried to write erythropoietin, I tried to write it like that one, and it didn't work. Anyway, but let's just start with a rundown on anemia, because this is kind of what Procrit or synthetic erythropoietin, if you will, was supposed to be treating. Okay, in part. There's a few different kinds of anemia, but for the sake of what we're discussing today, I'm simply talking about the disorder in which the body has too little red blood cells, hemoglobin with which to carry oxygen to the body's tissues and organs. And, most people I think know what anemia is, but symptoms of anemia, depending on its severity, you can have mild anemia and just maybe have some mild symptoms, may not have any symptoms. It just depends on your body, how, you could actually be quite resilient. I've seen people with really low hemoglobins just walking around. I'm like, you need to sit down, please. We need to get you some blood. Okay. But yeah, it depends. But most symptoms of anemia, especially when more severe, you're going to see fatigue, weakness, pallor. It's like the paling of skin, uh, paling of the gums, inside of the eyes, like, where the mucosa is. You'll see it looks really white under there. So breathlessness, dizziness, headaches, lightheadedness, cold hands and feet, which I feel like I have anyway, regardless of what my hemoglobin is.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, well, okay.
It could be thyroid too.
Mine, I don't like, it's not really like cold or hot, but like, it's almost like the nerve endings don't really, at least in my feet.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
yeah, I understand. I could see
I
that.
can wear flip-flops in an ice rink and be okay. But if my feet touch something directly cold, that's when my feet get cold. If that makes sense.
I hate when my feet touch anything wet.
But I think that's something to do with the nerves. I don't think that's because like my hands get cold.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
I mean, it could be like just some, like, I don't want to say neuropathy as in like a diagnosis kind of thing, but just because of like wearing skates for long periods of time too, because you do hockey and stuff. I used to wear heels all the time in my 20s because I always felt short. Don't do that. Don't do that. Not good for your back or your feet. But
tennis shoes, the flip-flops are weird at.
Well, even flip-flops can be bad for your feet, but like you don't wear them but you're not wearing them necessarily all day, standing up, walking around all day. Like you're not going hiking in flip-flops this week. But
I've done that once. Yeah, I don't recommend it.
People with like plantar fasciitis, I think, have a hard time with flip-flops. But
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But
at least down here in the South, flip-flops are a staple.
Pretty much. But yes. Also, no, you're good. I do the same thing. But yeah, cold hands and okay. Remember to swallow before you speak.
We're good. We're fine.
Cold hands and feet, and also fast or irregular heart rate as well. I'm sure many of us know, what anemia is, but I like to give you a rundown either way. Or maybe you have anemia, or you know somebody that has had anemia. It occurs more in women, maybe acute or chronic, depending on the circumstances and causes. I mean, like if you get an injury and you're bleeding profusely, that's kind of acute.
Yeah.
Kind of anemia, like, oh, crap. Or if you have chronic, like maybe GI ulcers or something you don't know about, there could be bleeding happening with that too over time. So it also occurs more often in those undergoing cancer treatments or dialysis, as with kidney diseases, and I'll explain a little bit more of that too. Hemoglobin is important as it binds with oxygen, carries it around the body, delivering it to tissues. Shut up.
I'm sorry. No. Just the tissues, shut up.
It's like, you have a notification. And Adam's always telling me to turn my notifications off. But anyway, okay, sorry. But yeah, so hemoglobin, very important. We all know without this oxygen, or if it's replaced with some poisonous substance like carbon monoxide, the tissues and organs will die. And well, we die. So,
don't need that.
No. So there are various causes like injuries, like I mentioned, involving blood loss, even heavy menstrual bleeding, or long-term menstrual bleeding. Like if it's not stopping like it's supposed to, being a woman is weird, to be honest. GI ulcers, nutrient deficiencies resulting in decreased production, or inheritable disorders that can lead to, your low red blood cell count. Cancers, especially those requiring surgery or chemotherapy and or radiation, also lead to the depletion of red blood cells in different ways. Blood cancers, like you got your leukemias, your lymphomas, multiple myeloma, and those that have just infiltrated the bones, metastasized to the bones, that kind of thing, or even if it started in the bones, I guess, may affect the bone marrow, which is where red blood cells originate, where they're so that could be a problem. Chronic inflammation is also a characteristic of cancer, and cytokines released as a result may suppress red blood cell production or make iron regulation more difficult. So a lot of things can happen within the body that you wouldn't even think of, really. Inflammation's a big deal. And I know there's people online that try to sell you stuff for like inflammation, and that a lot of that stuff is scammy, but inflammation is a real thing. It's just people do also try to scam you and sell you things saying that you have constant inflammation and this is why you this and da 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 da. So just be careful out there. People are always trying to scam somebody over something.
You need to attest to that.
Yes, I can. If I get one more letter about that freaking warranty issue.
We're reaching out for your car's extended warranty.
And like they lost me as soon as they were like, call us today. I don't want to call.
Well, like the letters too, just for reference for people. No logo, no business name, no like official website or anything. All they had was like a phone number.
Yeah, like call us
Just
because you have to verify that. I'm like,
very
but
scary.
I already got a warranty. I don't need to do this. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to call anybody.
So be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Also, you
Make
get
sure it's legit before you do anything.
get a lot of them via text too. Click this thing because you got to. I'm like, no, I don't.
Or
do
like the calls that you just randomly get from places. I just don't answer them anymore.
I don't either. I get text messages where it's like, "Hey, Bob," and I'm like,
"My name ain't Bob.
You want to answer a few questions?" No, I don't. And my name's not Bob. So no. I got one that was like, "Hey, Robert," and it immediately went into like, Marcus mode. Robert. I should have sent a GIF with Marcus and
Rock is pissing me off.
Robert.
That would have been funny. That
great.
What if you did it and you answered it as Marcus? Like if you ever get another scam call and just
Robert. L.
That would be hilarious.
I don't like this one.
Anyways,
do not disgruntle me, man.
Ooh, okay. Anyway, we're good. Sorry.
Back to it. Sorry. Yes, but scams. Lots of scams everywhere.
Don't fall for them.
Let's see. So, yeah, large or long-standing tumors within the body may also bleed and over time cause anemia. And you can see this with skin cancers too, but typically because you can kind of see like something's going on and go get this checked out, most often you're going to get something checked out when you can see it, right? Hopefully. But yeah, so like within the body, if you don't know it's there, that kind of thing, it can bleed over time. Chemotherapy and radiation do have the effect of damaging the bone marrow while going after cancer cells. I mean, chemotherapy a lot of the times is also killing healthy cells. It really sucks, but it's a way to kill those cancer cells, but it also makes you sick too.
Yeah.
It can make you sick.
Very sick.
And it's no fun, but it can affect the bone marrow as well. Also, poor nutrition, nutrient absorption can contribute to anemia. So like if you're sick, you have cancer, maybe you're struggling with appetite issues, that kind of thing as well, or nausea. Let's see, also like electrolyte imbalances in a way.
Yeah.
I think there's, and there's like things too, like if you take iron, you shouldn't be taking it with dairy products because there's something about calcium that like if you take it around the same time, it doesn't, it like kind of hinders the absorption of the iron or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of those different kind of little rules that some people don't know about. And so doctors are supposed to be like, hey, take this with this or don't take this with that. Pharmacists are supposed to say that too, but they don't always do it.
Bonus episode.
Yeah. Things you should be aware of with medications.
That can cause poison. There we go.
I mean, because like blood pressure meds, you're not supposed to be having grapefruit juice or something. And there's some other stuff too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there that will go against your meds. Birth control. Antibiotics can make birth control not work. So that's a good one to know. You're welcome.
Bonus, maybe a bonus episode down the road.
Yeah. We should do like...
Be on the lookout.
We need to do like a bonus where we watch that show where it's like, I didn't know I was pregnant. It's like,
how do you not
know that? It's not like I don't believe them. I'm just like...
Especially like, okay.
How?
The ones that get to like pretty much like having the baby. And it's like, how do you not realize? Like...
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know.
That maybe it happened different for them, but I hated being pregnant. So hated it. Ugh.
I can't say anything.
Felt so ick. I felt ick the whole time. So yeah. Also, we mentioned dialysis. Kidney diseases or cancers as well may also lead to anemia because of the destruction or suppression of erythropoietin, which is the hormone that stimulates the production of red blood cells, and it's kind of found or it's released from the kidneys. So that's kind of a big deal. So if you've got kidney problems, that can also be an issue. Dialysis, which is a treatment for kidney failure from disease, anything to do with the kidneys where the kidneys are not doing their job, they're going to use dialysis to help filter out your blood and stuff. But this can also destroy red blood cells. And that is where Johnson&Johnson's Procrit comes into play. And there's a couple of different synthetic erythropoietins, or EPOs, as you may hear me call them. And I'll name the other ones as well, but Procrit has been, I think, the one that was kind of a bigger issue, or at least got more attention. So after the discovery of erythropoietin and its role in the body, there was just this great interest in creating a synthetic form. There was already the treatment of blood transfusions to treat anemia. But in like the 1980s, there was this spike of HIV and AIDS virus like being transmitted via blood transfusions because the comprehensive donor screening tests and pathogen inactivation systems were just not developed. They test the blood to see if there's any of that stuff there anyway, that kind of thing. So they're able to screen it. But back then, they didn't really have that going on. And that wasn't available until like the mid to late 1980s. And for like Hep C, it wasn't around until 1990, I think, or something.
Mm-hmm.
So scientists at the American biopharmaceutical company, Amgen, found a way to create this synthetic EPO, erythropoietin, but the process was so costly, they needed financial assistance with getting the drug approved by the FDA. So Johnson&Johnson stepped in to help because they got plenty of money. And, they're seeing more dollar signs. And they made this deal. They're like, I don't want to, what's the word? Insult Scrooge McDuck, but because I like Scrooge McDuck. I feel like Scrooge McDuck, yeah, he's a bit greedy, but like, I don't know, he's still
slightly misunderstood.
Yeah, like I like his character. I don't know. But these are,
he eventually does
he
the
doesn't
right thing.
He's not malicious.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these people are. A little greedy, but anyway, moving on. Maybe I just like Scrooge McDuck because he's a fun character, but DuckTales, woo! Okay. But they made a deal with Amgen to procure sales rights outside the U.S. and those inside the U.S. that aren't related to dialysis patients. So, like, they made this deal where they're like, okay, we'll help you, but we get to have sales rights in these areas. Okay. Now, its original purpose for the market was to be for like dialysis patients, but Johnson&Johnson has been good at marketing things for other purposes. Anyway, to get more money, as we saw with, I think, Tylenol too, I think. And we're going to see with the next drug that we talk about as well, right? Now, this synthetic erythropoietin could actually help the burden placed on donor blood supply. It could lower the risks of contracting HIV, AIDS, or, Hep C, et cetera, from transfusions. So, the idea is good, and it's supposed to be helpful, to avoid transfusions, things like that. Now, the main market was believed to be aimed at, as I said, at dialysis patients. But with the rights to sell outside of this group, as like in the deal they made, Johnson&Johnson would have to find a way to make that money because they're not going to have those rights. Now, when they were given the okay to market and sell the drug, Amgen branded Epigen and Aranesp, while Johnson&Johnson branded Eprex and Procrit. At first, sales outside the original dialysis market were pretty low, as you can imagine. So Johnson & Johnson came up with this strategy to sell it to cancer patients. Now, millions of Americans are diagnosed with cancer every year, and the majority of them pay a lot of money. It's a lot of money for these treatments. It shouldn't be, but here we are. To either cure them or lengthen their lives, at least. There's just so many different kinds of cancer and prognosis and stuff. But they simply, Johnson & Johnson simply sought to take a bite out of this market. They were like, we can make money here. Now, there was a problem, however, with this medication because it stimulates the production of more red blood cells. This can actually thicken the blood and lead to clots and high blood pressure, especially if it's being given to someone who only has mild anemia to begin with. And this, thickening of the blood, the clots, all of that can actually lead to increased risks of heart attacks, strokes, and embolisms. You get the clots breaking off and traveling, or like if your blood pressure is too high, a lot of times you can end up with a stroke, that kind of thing. Now, cancer patients already have pretty stressed hearts. Their hearts are undergoing a lot of stress already. And many are also elderly, although there has been an unfortunate rise in cancer in younger people, which really sucks. Now, statistically, about half of cancer patients die from heart attacks or strokes before the cancer itself takes them in some other way. So to knowingly increase this risk for the sake of money would just be horrible.
Don't do it.
And they did knowingly do this. So, as we'll see. Even worse, in some ways, researchers early on discovered using Petri dishes that cancer cells thrived when introduced to erythropoietin. And there's a reason for that. It kind of makes sense because cancer cells are just mutated human cells that are multiplying aggressively, uncontrolled. Some tumors actually have EPO receptors and are even more sensitive to the protein. So they're going to, gobble that up. Tumors need blood to survive as well because they're made up of these cells, right? There's a whole actual field of research, cancer research, known as anti-angiogenesis. Those involved tend to study how some tumors actually send signals to the body to stimulate the creation of new blood vessels to feed their growth. So this process can hopefully be prevented or at least interrupted. Like they study this to try to find a way to get, around that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that like this thing in your body, which has gone mad, basically.
It's gone rogue.
Yeah, and it's like telling your body, hey, you need to make more of this. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. You're just some cells. We don't recognize you as foreign.
I mean, technically they wouldn't be, but
yeah, because it's your body's
your
cells.
body's, yeah.
They're just not good anymore. They've gone rogue, like you said. Now,
reminds me, wasn't there like a movie or something about like cells and stuff in the body? It was like an animated movie.
And it's got that blue guy.
Yeah.
The blue guy.
I can't remember the name of it, but you know what I mean? That's where my brain's going with like.
He's like a cop.
Yeah. I can't think of the name of the movie, but Osmosis Jones.
Yeah. Osmosis Jones.
Sorry, that's where my brain was going, where it's just like everything's just kind of like, all right, this is fine. Everything's going on.
I still think of Magic School Bus when they're in the human body.
Yes.
Always fun. But they do it twice, though. They go through the human body one time, and then they go through Ralphie's. Like he's got a cold, so they go through his immune system stuff. Yeah. Adam's never seen those.
He's not seen the Magic School Bus?
No. Right? Ridiculous.
All right, we need to sit him down.
I'm just going to have like a list of things he hasn't watched. Like I said yesterday, he hasn't seen the Gene Wilder version of
I've seen that.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I've seen that. Come on.
Telling you, his childhood was sheltered.
And I mean, so was mine, but still.
Yeah. Like, why haven't you seen these? He has shown me some of the things he was made to watch, and I was like, yikes, God.
So what I'm hearing is we need to have a movie night.
We do.
And just sit down and watch movies. And he has to stay and watch the movies.
Right, he has to actually sit there and not fall asleep. And not be on his phone.
Or come up and play video games.
Or go to the bathroom for 30 minutes. True. So, yeah, that's that whole area of study over cancer, which is actually pretty cool to think about. But just as a synthetic erythropoietin was being released to sell, another pharmaceutical company, GeneTech, was researching how to block the protein that stimulates the formation of new blood vessels. So, which was vascular endothelial growth factor, was the name of that protein. So they were looking for ways to stop the tumors from, basically asking the body to give them more blood, which would help them grow and, thrive in the body. So Johnson&Johnson knew of this research and the reason for it. So they knew that tumors liked erythropoietin, would thrive off of it, right? So they knew all that. And they knew that they were already using EPO to get blood, but they needed to survive and grow. So they actually gave a grant to a researcher at Harvard Medical School to study erythropoietin and its effects on cancer. And that researcher concluded that, yes, there are tumors that actually have EPO receptors and grow as a result of increasing the amount of erythropoietin, as with the drug that they're selling to these patients specifically.
Yeah.
Now, he traveled to New Brunswick to actually present his findings to Johnson&Johnson directly, and later said that two company officials that were engaged in a conversation, like there with him, and one of them stated, "We have to kill this work."
Okay.
Yeah, just say that out loud right in front of me. Thanks. Johnson&Johnson's confidence was all that was needed for this drug to gain positive attention, honestly. I mean, they'd been around forever. We mentioned like with the whole like baby powder thing, like they were known as being this family sort of company, They wanted to be trusted, and they found their way into that trust. So If anything, the idea of erythropoietin helping cancer patients not suffer anemia sounds wonderful. Like it sounds like a helpful thing. Or erythropoietin was even named Fortune's Product of the Year in 1989. Like they were like, this is great. We love this.
Mhm.
And the idea makes sense until you think about the idea of tumors also needing blood supply.
Yeah.
There was a first sign of trouble, though, witnessed among healthy athletes who had started to use erythropoietin with the intent of increasing oxygen in their blood. I guess it's supposed to help with their endurance or something, right?
Mhm.
First, there was the sudden death of 32-year-old Bert Oosterbosk. I'm not sure if I say his name right. Sorry. As a Dutch professional cyclist, he suffered a fatal heart attack just 5 days after winning an August 1989 race. And he was rumored to have been using Johnson&Johnson's EPO medication in the days leading up to that race. Also, 26-year-old Johannes Dragier, a cyclist who had helped the Dutch win the recent Tour de France. Is it Tour de France?
That sounds right.
Tour de France?
Tour de
France?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds right to me.
Tour de France. But he died suddenly in his sleep just a few months after the death of Oosterbosk. And it was reported that he had died of heart blockage, but his wife also said that he had taken Johnson&Johnson's erythropoietin medication in the days prior. So the cyclists did continue using the drug even after it was banned. Like it was banned after some point.
Unseen drug that actually hurts you more.
Yeah, right. But it was still cyclists still continued to use it, including Lance Armstrong, who won 7 Tour de France races between 1998 and 2005, and he also came out about having used other things as well, which was disappointing to a lot of people. I wonder, like, honestly, there's no doubt in my mind that I know he had testicular cancer, like him using the steroids and stuff. There's no like doubt in my mind. I feel like that's connected.
Mhm.
I'll have to look into that, but I feel like that's very much connected.
Yeah.
The issues he had. Now, Johnson & Johnson has had a strange history of performing trials of which results just remain hidden. Like they just sort of hope everybody forgets about them or they just don't mention it.
Yeah.
Now, one trial for erythropoietin was started in 1993 involving 400 women suffering from cervical cancer. It was basically a comparison of patients receiving erythropoietin versus those who did not. The results were never released. So it's like, okay, what happened with that?
Hmm.
As it was, Procrit became Johnson & Johnson's most profitable product ever by 1998. Even though the risks to the heart were well known by this time, American oncologists were still encouraging Procrit's use alongside other, EPO products from Johnson & Johnson and Amgen. Now, the fact that the drug also led to increased tumor growth had basically been swept under the rug or forgotten, apparently. Most of these doctors assumed that Johnson & Johnson would not be selling a drug knowing it was unsafe, which is incredibly naive, to be honest. I feel like these days, with all the stuff we now know
Mhm.
about not just Johnson & Johnson, but other pharmaceutical companies, there might be some more concern or caution, but
Yeah.
yeah. Meanwhile, Johnson & Johnson still promised a safety study and still failed to deliver over the years. We're going to get there,
It's coming. It'll be here soon.
still waiting. Now, Amgen,
It's been 84. Was it 81 years?
84. It's been 84.
84. Okay, sorry.
84 years. And they just dropped the diamond in the ocean.
I know, right? Could have used that for something good.
Best believe I would have dove in after that thing. Anyway,
Didn't have to keep the money yourself. You could have sent that all to charity or something.
honestly, kind of selfish too, because it's like
You've also been
when she dies, they got to pay for her funeral. You know how much funerals cost? I don't know about anywhere else, but here in America, they tax you when you die.
when you're alive and when you yeah.
Yeah, they do
Even
that
when you're not born. No, I'm just kidding.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Amgen had started a study of over 1,000 patients comparing these patients on dialysis who received EPO versus those who did not. So by 1996, the study was stopped and without being finished. And Amgen reported that there was no problem. There's no changes that should be made in its use in treatments in dialysis patients, but they did just kind of stop this test. And one investigator in the study, a professor of medicine at the University of California, Los Angeles, literally stated, The safety and efficacy of this treatment has been demonstrated in numerous clinical trials and in general practice over the past several years. In truth, the study's safety monitoring board, made up of independent experts that were there to protect patients in the study, stopped the study because patients receiving more erythropoietin were dying in greater numbers than those getting lower doses. So, now those receiving more erythropoietin did not report feeling any better either or healthier at all. So it seemed to be neither safe nor effective at that point. Then, of course, there were the ads. A lot of TV ads, at least here and maybe New Zealand. I'm not sure if they were doing them there at the time either, but I know like those are the only 2 places where it's like legal to do those. Yeah, there's the ads. You had these healthy looking people alongside a narrator. Usually they're like walking on a beach, holding hands, or they're in a park and everything's so beautiful and there's birds and there's rainbows and whatever.
Everybody's living life happily.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But yeah, basically the narrator was like, if you're a chemotherapy patient and feel tired and weak, ask your doctor about Procrit. Anyway,
I feel like I've seen these and my brain is just like not thinking about them.
yeah, and then like maybe a few years later, you see like the lawyer ads. If you or anybody you know has been
Has Procrit.
yeah, you may be due for compensation. Call us today. Telling you, they always follow each other. So yeah, like I said,
No, never mind. I'm not gonna go down that.
one big conspiracy. They're all sharing.
Like those lawyers are actually in the pocket of.
Now sometimes they do have their own lawyers now, pharmaceutical companies.
But it's like a
maybe they like pull together,
split
what they get from the winnings. I don't know, but they now some people
I don't know. Sorry
for something for the amount that people get sued on though. It's like I don't think that they would want to actually do that. They wouldn't get paid back for that.
Yeah, that's true.
But okay, yeah, we've talked a bit already about the crazy pharmaceutical ads here in the U.S. and apparently in New Zealand. Now they would go on with advertising saying that the only side effects were diarrhea and edema or swelling. In reality, there were no studies at all that proved the medication helped fatigue or weakness. Any studies that they did, like I said, they stopped or hid or whatever. But the possibility sounded great to those who desperately wanted such relief, So you're already having a hard time when you're going through cancer treatments and things like that. So if you can help any symptoms, you're going to want to try that out. Within the 2001 political campaign, I think it was the George W. Bush, there's 2 of them. The FDA's top lawyer was Daniel Troy, who had spent much of his life advocating that businesses have a right to free speech, just as individuals did. It's like, okay, but in his mind, it was like they're allowed to say whatever they want, kind of free speech. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, sure, but now you're just pushing claims to make money.
Yeah.
Claims that aren't even true or have no evidence behind them. This lawyer even required that the FDA and reviewers of such seek his approval before demanding anything from drug makers, which is what?
A little weird.
Yeah. So he controlled whether or not the FDA could enforce anything, is basically what that means. And when he left this job, he actually left to become one of Johnson&Johnson's lawyers. So that tracks. Johnson&Johnson tried another study in 2001 with 109 cervical cancer patients, but stopped this one too. Why? Because patients given the EPO were actually dying faster than those not given the drug, just like some of the other tests were going. And these results were also hidden for some time, even though at the time it was illegal to hide worrisome clinical trial data from the FDA. But they still did it. Now, by 2007, more than 80% of dialysis patients were given doses higher than what the FDA considered safe. A request to know true data around 2010 via the Freedom of Information Act, passed much earlier, showed some interesting facts. Even before this, however, in 2003, a study published in The Lancet warned that EPO drugs could be killing cancer patients. So for the longest time, oncologists had trusted these companies, believing that the benefits of EPO outweighed any risks. The benefits sounded great. A senior authority on the study showing this was not the case, Michael Henke from the University of Freiburg in Germany, said that he could not recommend using EPO as treatment in cancer patients who wanted to actually cure themselves. So if you want to actually cure your cancer, you shouldn't take this drug. As it turns out, these pharmaceutical companies like Johnson&Johnson, Amgen, had kept oncologists unaware of any possible issues with testing of the product. Like they've been hiding, results of testing and stuff. First of all, that should be a red flag to me.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you publish this, huh? But
It's
like
suspicious.
instead they're just trusting that no, it's all good, it's fine. So now some viewed Hinke as a hater, so to speak, until the editor of the Cancer Letter, Paul Goldberg, spoke up. Sorry, like my stomach is doing right now. It's like,
It
feed
spoke up.
me, feed me.
Did you not eat
spoke
anything
up.
before we walk? What's up?
No, I'll eat after, I promise.
Okay.
But yeah, Paul Goldberg spoke up about Hinke's research not being an outlier, meaning like he's not the only one that's sort of discovered this. This is, there are other studies that show this. And he himself had discovered other well-scripted studies that those who received Procrit were 3 times more likely to die than those not taking the drug. And this is because in those taking Procrit, the cancer or the tumors, they grew exponentially, which is not what you want. Now, Hinke was a man influenced by prior tragedies. He had treated leukemia patients and assisted with bone marrow transplants. This same form of treatment, bone marrow transplant, began to be considered for those with breast cancer. And this ended in the conclusion that transplant did nothing but waste those patients' money and cause them more pain. So that wasn't working out. So he'd been through like trying and feeling like he'd failed, patients before, because not intentionally, but just because he tried something hoping it would work. Hinke and another doctor had met at a conference and discussed how EPO might benefit their cancer patients receiving radiation, since they had found that anemia and those with low blood oxygen levels resulted in decreased benefits from radiation. It just didn't work as well. And anemia being based on the numerical value of red blood cells in the body, plus the fact that these cells transport oxygen through the body, and then you have the erythropoietin stimulating the growth of red blood cells, like its use would make sense if you're not aware of the other effects, right? So Hinke actually requested that Johnson&Johnson fund a study in radiotherapy patients concerning their drug, but the company declined. It's like, oh, why would you do that? Why would you decline? And he's asking for a study in this area because it would have to be approved for that particular purpose. So to see if it's effective. So when they declined to do this, he asked a German pharmaceutical company, I'm trying to say this name, Boehringer Ingelheim. That sounded good.
Yeah, I'm about to say that sounds right.
But they sold to another company anyway. But they were about to launch their own EPO drug to investigate. They asked them to investigate the drug since Johnson&Johnson had refused, which, by the way, is just shady.
Yeah.
Whatever. After some time, it was made known that it was not the study that was the problem, but the hypothesis, and I'll explain that in a second. So Ingelheim sold to Roche during the study, but it was still funded. The study was still funded, and Hans Ulrich Berger, Hansberger, that's fun, became the statistician for it. It was assigned statistician. So it was a double-blind study, so neither the patients nor Hinke, or other researchers knew who was getting EPO and who was not, right? It was just a way to not have bias in the research. Towards the end of the study, when the distinction was made clear, researchers first thought they had mixed up the data, right? Because it just looked like, okay, this doesn't look like what we expected. And after some investigating, they realized that they had not actually mixed the groups up. The study just went the opposite way than they had hypothesized. Instead of helping these patients, EPO use resulted in more deaths. Among the 351 patients in the study, 171 had received a placebo, while 180 were given EPO. And the group taking EPO, the erythropoietin, showed a 69% increase in cancer progression and a 39% rise in deaths. So it's pretty significant. These deaths had not resulted from heart attack or stroke, though, even though that was still a major risk. And the study had lasted 7 weeks, while most deaths occurred after 13 weeks. So they were able to determine like this was due to further growth of this cancer.
Yeah.
So yeah, the statistician, that's just weird to say. Statistician. There's too many T's. Statistician and I's.
Yeah.
T's and I's. Was it
I think
dot your I's and cross your T's?
T's.
Yeah. statistician, but he was looking at these numbers. Berger was his name, Hans Berger. But immediately he informed Hinkie, who was very much grieved at having caused pain and death to those within the study. He believed that they were, on this track to help them, but they didn't know that there were these other effects that could happen.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were like really confused. Like this went the opposite direction than we expected it to go. And people ended up dying because of it.
Mhm.
So that really messed with him a lot. Now, Johnson&Johnson and Amgen had already known this, though, and that is why they refused to run another study and why they were hiding their results. Now, the results of studies before had either disappeared, like I mentioned, or were hidden. And once this got back to Roche's top officials made it clear that the study should be published. Like they can't just hide this from people like, Johnson&Johnson and Amgen were doing. One reason why Johnson&Johnson and Amgen had wanted to bury the studies before, involved greed, of course. Making and then seeking FDA approval was pricey, as it was. Putting together and performing studies on these meds was also expensive. They didn't want to waste money on testing a medication only to throw out the possible sales for that medication, right? So it was like, we're just not going to talk about it.
Mhm.
Which you would think later on is going to get you in trouble or you're going to have to pay out anyway. But
Yeah.
anyway, they weren't thinking long term, I guess. So the FDA was finally getting wise to researchers' findings with the dangers of EPO. And so they called a meeting in 2004. And again, like the FDA is basically run by whoever's in the government, basically. So depending on that particular, like, depending on who's running what campaign and what they value and stuff, is what you're going to get in this area as well. As we're finding out now, even. So they called a meeting 2004. At this meeting, they forced the hand of a Johnson & Johnson research executive who admitted that they had indeed gone through at least 5 studies, which had been undertaken and then halted because patients just kept dying. Like he really had to come out and say that because this is what happened. And there was no way around it at this point. A warning label was put on the medication for possible risks of cancer progression. Now, later that same year, in 2004, the FDA decided to do their own testing to look into the concerns of patients dying while taking EPO. It's a pretty important concern. Now, at this point, Johnson & Johnson and Amgen could no longer hide what they'd been hiding. Dr. Otis Brawley, Chief Medical Officer of the American Cancer Society, has even labeled it as Miracle-Gro for cancer.
Thanks.
So that ain't no good.
Mm-mm.
The 2 companies that had been making millions of dollars off the medication did attempt to reiterate that EPO is safe. And they said they had studies in process that would soon prove this, even though they'd had studies for like decades that were supposed to prove this and they just never did.
Yeah.
So also other studies from others had already showed otherwise. Like, you know what I mean? Like other people are doing studies and it's very different from what you're saying. Amgen specifically had hidden the fact that in one study funded by them, of those receiving EPO, there was like 513 patients involved. Those receiving the EPO were about 38% more likely to see their tumors grow and become worse. This study was halted by the independent self-monitoring committee because they saw it unethical to continue giving these patients a drug that was killing them. So the reason you see all these studies stopping, it's more because of these committees that are like, you can't keep doing this. And then them hiding that fact and the other results of that study. So not ethical and not legal, honestly, because they're supposed to be telling the FDA if there's any worrisome issues.
Yeah.
Now, Amgen not only kept this a secret, that they refused to divulge the results in its annual earnings call with analysts. They have to go through this annual earnings kind of thing, with analysts, like, everybody's with taxes, but these companies are huge. And so they go through all this in this way. And this would actually, see. Yeah, they didn't divulge the results of that year. And this is actually a violation of securities laws since they had made so much money off of that drug.
Yeah.
Right. So, in fact, by the end of 2007, 8 large studies would continue to prove that erythropoietin increased risks of heart attacks, strokes, and tumor growth. Now, the FDA slapped its strongest black box warning on the drug with the addition of a notice stating that the drug should not be used when the anticipated outcome is cure. Still, some doctors do still prescribe it for those undergoing intensive chemo, which anyone would only agree to if they're looking to be cured. So you're not supposed to use it if your intention is for curing, but you're still using it. Now, chemotherapy is not easy on the body at all. We've already talked about that, but it hurts healthy cells as well as cancer cells in the process, trying to destroy the cancer. And now it works, for with certain, there's different kinds of cancers and different prognosis depending on, how serious they are and stuff. So, but chemotherapy, is if you're doing chemotherapy, you're doing it because you want to get rid of it, or you at least want to give yourself more time, that kind of thing. But it's not easy on the body. Now, what is worse in these situations is that there is no real evidence to say that erythropoietin improves a patient's quality of life. So there isn't any reason to use it even among hospice patients because it's not safe, but it's also not really all that effective. Being one more medication that patients and the families have to pay for, it just all it seems to do is shorten lives and increase medical debt, to be honest. So in July of 2007, a national coverage determination was released by Medicare and Medicaid, and it instructed doctors to not use EPO when patients' hemoglobin levels were about 10 grams per deciliter. And honestly, a hemoglobin of 10 is really not that severe anyway. My own hemoglobin sits at like 10 to 12, likely because I have terrible eating habits. But this rule, would actually save lives and likely save the government money as well, because they wouldn't be paying for it each time if the hemoglobin is over 10. But it would mean that Johnson&Johnson and Amgen would have massive profit cuts. So about 90% of the drug's use at that time was in patients with hemoglobins over 10. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I guess maybe they were trying to prevent anemia at that point. Whatever. Now, I mentioned in our last talk about J&J that the pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest donors to American political campaigns. That's just a fact, as well as like oil companies and stuff like that. They spend a lot of money lobbying and getting politicians on their side, which should be illegal.
Yeah.
But here we are. Now, using this fact to their advantage, they played the victim card and got medical and patient groups to help them protest this new rule. Because, now they're not making as much money. And politicians who saw the rule in this sort of denial of care perspective, because they can lie to these people too. Politicians aren't scientists. They're not medical professionals most of the time. Some are. There have been some doctors that ended up in politics, but like there are a lot who don't know about this stuff. And so they're being taught like, can you believe what they're doing? They're not letting people get the care they need. Like they're trying to, put it off as that.
Guilt other people.
Basically. So they're like, yeah, you're right. This is denial of care. We need to protest this because they don't really know what's really going on. But so these politicians also criticize Medicare and Medicaid officials because of perceived injustice. They signed measures and letters demanding fewer limits on Procrit and EPO, not realizing, I guess, what they were doing. They had no clue about the hidden studies and the results about the treatment, which you would think they would want to do more research on something that they're standing for. Like that. Like I would think like politicians should be doing a lot of research and should know things like history but you know what, they don't. So here we are.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
You can be incredibly stupid and win an election. We've seen that time and time again in this country, so, and in other countries. So, but before I go off on that, you don't have to be a genius is what I'm saying. Now, in 2011, a lengthy study was released by Medicare Medicaid Services, concluding that besides a slight rise in red blood cell count numbers on paper, erythropoietin carried with it only bad effects. And it's funny because, all the people that are like, oh, I use this because it's natural. And it's like, well, erythropoietin is natural in your body. Your kidneys release this to tell your body to make more. But it's like your body knows how to balance things typically, at least when it's healthy. And it's like just adding more of this doesn't mean you're doing the body good. In fact, you're actually giving more food, if you will, to the tumor, right? You're feeding that tumor amongst and doing other things. But so, sort of was a synthetic version of it, but natural, right? Body makes it, but wasn't good. Now, it did not make people feel better during cancer treatment or dialysis, if like a kidney patient. It should only ever be used in rare circumstances, as the FDA with the black box warning basically said. However, the drug has made more than $100 billion and led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. And they can get away with that by saying, well, we can't necessarily tie that person's heart attack with this. Like it can be obvious, like they were taking this and this happened. It's probably a connection.
Yeah.
But in court, and they have gone to court over stuff like this. So there have been some damages that they've had to pay and stuff. So
yeah.
But you would have to be able to prove like this is what caused this person's death. I mean, they should they should be able to take them to court just over the lies and stuff too.
Yeah.
But eventually, erythropoietin became less profitable to prescribe anyway because Medicare changed the way it paid for it in kidney patients. A lump sum was provided for care instead of separate payments per prescription. And this was not the case in cancer patients, though, for some reason. They just did this for that particular group of patients. So they left that process unchanged. And in 2016, Johnson&Johnson sales of Procrit, or EPO, had reached $1.1 billion in that 1 year. It would take until 2016 for Johnson&Johnson to publish any sort of data of its trials for the drug, even though they've been in the works for a long time, like decades. And the study appeared in the Journal of Clinical Oncology, concluding that EPO was basically Miracle-Gro. This is Miracle-Gro. Miracle-Gro for cancer. I don't know how I typed that.
Probably tired.
I was really tired when I was doing this, but yeah, it was basically Miracle-Gro for cancer. So even their own study came out concluding that among 2,098 women with metastatic breast cancer, those receiving erythropoietin were twice as likely to suffer strokes, pulmonary embolisms, or acute coronary syndrome than those not taking it. And it was noticed in the 12th month of treatment that those who were receiving erythropoietin experienced significant and swift tumor growth. Ultimately, those taking EPO were more likely to die. And I'm guessing like this was published finally because, a researcher either stood up to the powers that be in Johnson & Johnson, or Johnson & Johnson just had no other choice at this point. Like they had been,
had to.
They're like, crap, now we have to do something. Now, as a result of the many studies coming to light, finally, it is now considered best to treat cancer patients with severe anemia with blood transfusions, not EPO. And like I mentioned earlier, we now do have more precautions in place to protect those who were getting transfusions from certain illnesses, certain diseases, things like that. Sales of Procrit have declined over time, and it's mostly prescribed by physicians not affiliated with major academic medical centers. A lot of them serve poorer communities, make considerable sums per prescription. So they're not doing the right thing, but there are some doctors who still do it, prescribe it, whether it's to make themselves money or they just don't look into research and know that this is actually a bad idea.
Yeah.
So there's some history involving erythropoietin and just how drug companies, once again, have exploited patients and their doctors and the government, actually. Of course, the government ought to know that game well anyway, because they play it too. But next week, I do want to discuss another drug called Risperdal, which is an atypical antipsychotic medication. It was created and sold by Johnson & Johnson. And we're going to go into their further exploitation, and this time on the mental health community and how they made money selling this drug for uses way beyond what it was originally for in the first place. Also, just the issues with that drug in general, the lies that they've told as well. I also have some medical devices to discuss with them, so I'll see if we can fit that in as well. But yeah, you know how long-winded I can be on things. So.
Also, can I just add one thing before we log off? When I'm talking about it, I can't pronounce it because I'm bad at pronouncing stuff. But my brain keeps going to like Sheldon yelling Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton!
Yeah.
When you were talking about that drug. And so my brain just
Erythropoietin?
Yeah.
Because it rhymes with Will Wheaton.
Yeah. Sorry.
Will Wheaton. Erythropoietin.
So I could just picture Sheldon like
Will Wheaton!
Talking
Erythropoietin!
Sorry. I had to add the 2 cents.
fun with hormones, proteins. My
Instead of
shoulder
fun with
totally
flags.
snapped. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
goodness.
so that's what I have for you today with Johnson & Johnson. We'll do some more of them next time, and I look forward to bringing you that as well. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping our like internet and my child's computer, which we use to like, hopefully technology will be kinder to me in the future.
If anything, we got a system worked out.
True. And honestly, my computer does sound pretty well, I think.
Mhm.
We used the mics for a long time because I had my old computer when we first started, and that computer was ancient. Basically, it was terrible. So I still loved it, but it didn't do as well as with this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I better go get something to eat because I'm starving
I
and my
can hear your
stomach won't
stomach.
shut up. Will we, Todd? All right. Bye.
Bye.